Well, there's two notions, both of which reflect heresies in the ancient church. The earliest was called Gnosticism, and that term takes its name from the word for knowledge. And there were some people, including some Christians, who gathered the idea that what was crucial was to have the right ideas about everything. It was essentially a subjective conviction, or perhaps a shared conviction of a small group, and they considered themselves the intellectual elite and regarded the common members of the church as basically a bunch of hicks who didn't really know what they were about. So they caused great tension in the church, and some of the early fathers, like Ignatius of Antioch, wrote extensively criticising these people. But that frame of mind persists, and it shows up, Francis thinks, and I think rightly, it shows up in those attitudes which place fundamental importance on right statements of doctrine and have no flexibility to reach out to the reality of mystery and the unknown. And that clearly is a feature of Pope Francis' own spirituality. He's certainly not advocating no holes barred spirituality. It's very demanding, but it's not one which can be put into tin cans of theory. That's Gnosticism. Now the idea is still around, it never dies. We don't have the ancient forms of it, but we have versions of it. And the other one is pelagianism, a very common moral and ethical position, which would basically rest on the conviction that I can do things with my willpower and my strength of mind, and I don't really need God's help, and I don't really need much help from others, since I have my own strength, and I'm confident of that strength, and I will rely on that to bring me to a good life. And Francis basically says, as a fruit of long experience, that's not the way it's going to end up. We can't lead life on such a basis. We have to be prepared to open to others, and especially to these people whom I mentioned before, the saints next door, to listen to them, to talk to them. It's the kind of approach St. Francis would take, and also quite similar to that of St. Alphonsus. His spirituality is not a highly theoretical spirituality at all. It's very basic, very down to earth, reaching out to the ordinary people. So there would be a certain affinity between the Redemptorist approach and that of Pope Francis.